Thank you very much, Jacqueline, and it's lovely to be here today with such an awesome panel of speakers. I'm delighted that you were all able to join us for today. So yes, as Jacqueline says, I'm VP of Grassroots at Electrocomponents. I manage a team here that look after our global university outreach programme and also our internship programme across the Electros group. And the aim of that is to bring in young talent and to make young people aware of who we are as a company. I'm very lucky. I've been able to work with some exceptional young people all over the world in the engineering and technology field for over 8 years now. So I'm acutely aware of the incredible young talent that is out there. I think another thing that's really important to call out in this session is the kind of rise in importance of corporate social responsibility and environmental and sustainable goals for companies. And I can honestly say that the young people that I've worked with demonstrate this so much. They are so passionate about ethics, about injustice, about environmental issues. So there's a really nice fit with young talent coming into the workplace and ramping up that ESG CSR agenda as well. So that's why our work as a team is very heavily underpinned by CSR goals and also diversity and inclusion. These young people have grown up in a world where it is diverse. They have never known it any different. They are used to having wide, diverse pools of friends and peers coming up through college and university and schools. So it's very important to them that the companies that they end up in reflect what they have been used to. So I also find myself in the position that I am one of the most senior people of colour in our organisation. And RS and Electros are fantastic employers, but like many companies, you know, we have to acknowledge that we still have work to do, particularly in terms of ethnic diversity up in the senior rungs of management. Now, I think we can all acknowledge that there have been countless studies that have been done that show how our brains are wired and how they trigger reward signals when we encounter people like ourselves, and distrust or fear signals with people who differ from us. And this is the underlying science between why we experience unconscious bias and indeed conscious bias. And that unconscious bias, as we know, affects our choices on how we recruit and what we individually perceive as talent. So the good news is that this activity in our brains is totally malleable. We can modify our fear and reward systems to produce different behavioural outcomes, even though those are kind of primitive, hardwired things in our brain. But in order to do that, we have to work hard to challenge ourselves and to be conscious of those things that happen in our brains to actively combat that way of thinking. So as some of the previous speakers have said, the business case for diversity is so clear, and there are loads of amazing reports that are out there and case studies and scientific research on why it makes a difference in your organisation. So I've had the interesting perspective of kind of being pretty senior here, but also seeing the early careers talent pipeline coming through. And there is still this, I'm going to say, fairly antiquated approach to wanting the top grads from the top unis with the top grades. And I'm really glad that Ollie actually touched on some of those statistics there, because as he showed you with his presentation, we know that young black people are less likely to be told about going to university than their white counterparts. We also saw from Ollie's stats there that the percentage of black and ethnic minorities in those Russell Group universities and Red Brick universities is much lower. So by going for these top grads from the top unis, you are missing out on an entire tranche of diverse talent that's coming up through other routes. I was on a call yesterday with the head of diversity and inclusion at the Royal Academy of Engineering, and she told me about an interesting stat which is very relevant for today, that 60% of top grade students who are white graduates from engineering and technology courses managed to find their first job in the first year versus only 37% of their black counterparts. So I think it's really, really important that as companies looking to diversify the talent pool coming in, that we explore sourcing that young talent from the less sought after universities, from apprenticeships, from traineeships, and even earlier than that, through work experience, when you can take them in and develop them and get them to come back and develop a loyalty to your company. There are lots of great programs out there that you can actually partner with to source some more diverse talent. So again, as an example, the Royal Academy of Engineering have a program called GEEP, which is the Graduate Engagement Engineering Program. 90% of the candidates that they take onto that program and partner with engineering companies on are from Black and ethnic minorities, and 30% are female. So it's a great resource that companies can actively dip into and diversify their youth talent pools coming in. So on the website, the Reflect website, we have got an area for partner companies that you can work with in order to make a positive difference in this space. And we'll keep updating that area of the website. So do keep checking back on what you can use there. So in my personal experience, often the young people that we seek from these Black and ethnic minority backgrounds, I personally have witnessed that they work harder. They apply themselves more, they're more eager to please, and ultimately they demonstrate greater loyalty to your company for the opportunities that you have put in front of them. So I think another thing that companies can really do is to kind of review how they do that recruitment of young talent. Don't just base it on an academic grade. An academic grade shows you that they can study and retain information in a particular way. It doesn't necessarily show you how they're going to perform in your company. So why not recruit for passion, for values, for soft skills like effective communication and emotional intelligence and teamwork? These are things that people from all different backgrounds can demonstrate, as opposed to just a grade. So all of these are the reasons as to why the whole concept of Reflect was conceived. I'd been watching all of this going on. I used to work at the IET, and so I know Jo very well, and reached out to her and said, what do you think about this? And it's very much on the IET's agenda as well. So we were delighted to bring Reflect last year, which I'm very biased, but it gave me all the feels. We had 300 young people that attended from Black and ethnic minority backgrounds, but also low socioeconomic backgrounds. And we had 8 motivational speakers there to talk to them about how they're smashing it in the fields of engineering and technology and what differences they're making. So we wanted to, as Ollie and Suki have said, there is definitely proof that the if you can see it, you can be it theory works. We looked at women in engineering, for example. So many years ago, when I was at the IET, I believe the statistic was only 9% of women of people in engineering were women. And we've seen a rise in programs that are encouraging girls to consider engineering and technology as future career prospects. And in line with that, delightfully, albeit slightly slowly, we have seen the numbers of girls going into engineering and technology increase. So it works. So that's exactly why we wanted to do Reflect. And we also had a whole load of technology on display that the young people could interact with. We have to come right back to the base and realise that some of these young people may never even have been given the opportunity to play with, to interact with, to operate these technologies. And so we wanted to give them that chance too. We then took 30 of the young people that attended on a follow-up programme where we offered them soft skills training with things like CV writing, creating LinkedIn profiles, interview skills, and we were delighted to see that quite a lot of those went on into employment. So this year, again, as Suki's rightly pointed out, in light of the BLM movement, there is a massive spotlight at the moment on race inclusion in the workplace. And so we really wanted to bring companies on the journey with us as well this year, because it has to be approached by the companies, but also from the young people. So RS is in a very unique position to send ripples through the engineering and technology industry, because we have a massive and extensive network of customers and suppliers that are engineering and technology firms. And that's also partly why we wanted to partner with the IET, because they are a professional engineering institution that accredit many engineering courses, and they add further impact and credibility to the cause. So to wrap up from my side, I think that the important things for employers to recognise is to educate yourself about our situations, about how our backgrounds affect us and how we come into the workplace, how your recruitment processes may be biased against us. Embrace us when we come into your organisations. Invest the money into things like mandatory unconscious bias training that will help the peers around us to understand and embrace and welcome our thought processes. Develop us, include us in development programmes so that we can rise up through the ranks like the others. And promote us into senior leadership positions, because we know that those unconscious biases affect how we bring in talent, and it's really important that it's reflected at the top in order to bring it in through other layers of the organisation.